Hitting record. Yes.
Yes, again, yes, another guest
It's
commenting on
it's
how
like
large it is.
a
I
It's a
know.
boat.
trough. It's a
It's a
trough. It's a
boat.
trough of
Yeah, I
coffee.
feel like I could sail those 7 seas in it. Never mind.
How I feel this morning because I'm just coming back from vacation. I need every bit of it. I was just telling Dal like how just out of touch with reality I am right now, and like how out of body I am this morning. I brewed the cup of coffee, but never put coffee grinds in it.
It's
So it
all
was like
good.
residual coffee bean water. And I was like, oh, that's not going to work today. We
And
have
I
a guest and I can't sound like a dum dum.
where did you go on your vacation?
We went to just a local beach city, like about an hour away from where I currently live. We went to Oceanside. I live in
Where
Southern California. So
Oh,
we
nice.
still stayed pretty local. I mean, there's not a whole lot of reasons for us to leave the state because we have mountains,
You have
beach,
it.
desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in Toronto, aren't you? Or in
Yeah,
Ontario?
and what
Yeah.
about you? Where are you? Are you
I'm
in
in Edmonton. Yeah,
you're
where
Edmonton.
Andrew's at.
How
Yeah.
did you know each other then? Well, obviously, I mean, yeah,
Oh, Carmi and I?
yeah.
We actually got introduced through a mutual colleague, and about 3 years ago, before we were attending RCS, he had made the introduction, and we just kind of
Oh,
jived
you hit it
on.
off there. And so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carmen, were you at the summit this year?
Carmi
Yes, I
was.
was. Yes,
Yeah.
I attended your talk, but I don't know. Somehow we missed each
Yeah,
other
yeah.
in trying
Okay.
to meet. And then Dal was like, oh, I met Amanda. I was like, oh, dang it. I missed it.
I
I was
know.
trying to juggle like friends and the summit and also my husband because my husband also attended. So
Oh,
I must have been
nice.
pulled
All right.
away.
So
Yeah.
that's our connection. Okay. Well, I'm ready for
Yes.
you. We're good
Okay.
to
Yep.
go whenever. And yeah, hope we have a
Let's go.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right, you guys. Well, welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Cycle, Redefining Weight Loss, Health, and Mom Life. Today, we have our special guest, Amanda Thebe, menopause advocate and educator, health and wellness coach, and also author of Menopocalypse. So welcome. We are
I
excited
love
to
that.
have you. We saw your educational speech at Real Coaches Summit, and it was wonderful. I love how you kind of just cut through the bullshit of all the menopause noise. So I am very excited to have you because I think a lot of our audience needs to hear what you have to say.
It's sort of become my superpower that I didn't realize I had. It's so funny because when I was younger, my mum would call me a gobshite. I don't know if you've heard
Oh,
that expression, but essentially it means someone who never stops talking, which is very much me. But like I was always so principled, like, that's not right, that's not right. And it turns out that it's actually my strength as a 55-year-old woman that like I think age, maturity, being in the industry for so long, then going through menopause myself and like researching it, speaking with experts. I look at things with such a skeptical lens all the time and go, why the fuck are you talking like that to women? Why? It's really not helping them. And it's really taking away any power that they might have, right? So any decent coaches like us all who've been doing this for a long time are not saying anything new and breaking. We never are. We're always saying,
Yeah.
dial it back, bring back to the basics. And hopefully by the end of this, even though we'll talk about the nuances and the complications of menopause and how it really shows up in such really terrible ways for women, that when you work with coaches and you dial into those basics, you're literally doing the best thing for your body.
love
Yeah.
that. Love
Yeah.
that. And before we get into that, would you mind sharing a little bit about your own personal story? We would love to hear that, and then we can get into it
I just said
with
I'm
menopause.
55. It might take a long time. How long have you got? No, I'm just joking. So I'm British. If you
Yeah.
hadn't noticed, um, and I was born in the northeast of England, and moved over to North America in 2001. Actually, went to Boston for 2 years. I lived there for 2 years. Had my first son there. Then
Okay.
moved to Canada with my husband, and we had our second son here. Yeah, whoa, Canada. And then we all became naturalized Canadians. So we are a family of Canadians. We're blended. We're like the United Nations, but we're very
Right.
proud Canadians. We then went back to the US for Trump 1.0. So in 2017, for 4 years, we moved to Texas with my husband's work. And during the COVID time, it's actually when I wrote my book about menopause. And
Oh,
one of the reasons I did this is because I had an in-person practice in Toronto that was going really well. Women were like coming to me. Most of my clients, I would say 80% of my clients were women in their 40s and above, because you sort of attract like for like, don't you?
Right.
The school mums, the ones that were a bit older, going through menopause. And the women that were going through menopause would be like, oh, Amanda, I don't know if I can do it today. It's kicking my butt. And I'd say things to them like, oh, yeah, that must really suck. Thinking, what are you talking about? I have no idea. Like, and I know the human body, like when you feel like you are really well educated in your field.
Right.
And then when I was 42 and I was living in Toronto, I started to feel very unwell. So I was getting up early, as a lot of coaches do, to see their clients, coming home about noon, spending the whole afternoon on the sofa, just
Yeah.
exhausted, picking the kids up from school, putting my mum hat on, and then like just really not sort of like showing up in anywhere. I was definitely just going through the motions, and I started falling over a lot. I started getting um and throwing up, not being able to walk in a straight
oh,
line. Like, I actually was really worried,
Wow.
and I thought I had something going on, like a fucking brain tumor or something. So I went to my
Yeah.
doctor and I was like, I'm not myself. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing too much, maybe work's too much for me. I've got all these clients, it was one of those type of things. And that took me into the healthcare system. And in Canada, I was seeing doctors in a timely manner with
Yeah.
no cost involved, lots of different subspecialties for 2 years. And they must
Okay.
have spent hundreds of thousands on MRI
Mhm.
scans, CAT scans. They even induced did balance inducing, like some type of a testing. So they would rock me and put water in my ears and try to make me emulate the vertigo.
Vertigo. Yeah.
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 But I'd been doing vestibular rehabilitation training, so I was like getting like vertigo, but then readjusting really quickly.
Yeah.
And anyway, so long story short, at the end of 2 years, the doctors were like, "Well, we can see that you're not well." One of the nurses said, "Actually, you don't look well at all," and I was like, "Thanks,"
Like
but
cheating
we,
you.
and I realized I looked terrible because I don't wear sickness well. But then I was also like, but they were like, "We don't know what's wrong with you." And I was like, "Is this it? Am I doomed to be this miserable person that's just not thriving, that really doesn't like her family anymore, is struggling to show it for work?" And I just was a lesser version of myself. And
Yeah.
it was just so upsetting. And so I started to withdraw, like, from a personal perspective, started to withdraw from life, essentially.
Mm.
And it really wasn't working out well for me. And so then I went to a gynecologist about something else.
Yep.
Cysts, probably, because I'm very cysty. Like most women, there was something else going on. And then he sort of said, "Can I ask, is everything okay?" I started crying,
Oh.
talking through everything. And he was like, "Look, I think you're in perimenopause." And this is now, so I'm 55, and this was when I was 44. So this is 11 years ago. And I went, "What's perimenopause?" I hadn't
Mm.
heard of it. He went, "You having any hot flashes? Are you having any of this?" And I was like, "Will you just shut up? Because I'm 44 and we're not having the menopause conversation."
Yeah.
And it was a bit like I had no idea what he was talking
Mhm.
about. And then ultimately fell down that rabbit hole. And I wrote this article, and it was called "The Shite That Nobody Told Me All About Perimenopause." And it
I
sort of
love it.
went viral in a low level way. Like, I don't know, about 80,000 downloads or something. And I had a blog at the time. And women
That's
were like,
viral.
"That's me." And I was like, "You know what? If I don't know what's going on, then surely there's lots of other women out there that don't." And I've got a
Yeah.
sort of background that would make me sort of expect what's going on. Never got any coaching on this, did we, or anything, right? So anyway, and so then I was reaching out to all of the experts. I was like, I can be a really good conduit from the medical guidelines, the Menopause Association, all of the doctors doing this, all of the other subspecialties like pelvic health physiotherapists that like literally see
Yeah.
what's going on down there. And that's why I wrote the book. And it was
Wow.
like meant to be a best mate's guide to menopause. And I could position myself in my area of expertise, but wear it where it went into the weeds, I was like very happy to bring people into my fold, like any good coach would,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And then, so what, like, because I know a little bit about you, did you try any, like, any progesterone, estrogen, anything like that? And did that help for you? And I also want to circle back to, just our experiences with our moms and stuff, and just being from different cultures and different parts of the world. So it's a two-part question. We, I myself, like, just never saw that. Like, our moms, aunts, grandmas, no one
And
talked about therapy.
what's your cultural heritage?
I'm I'm Punjabi, I'm Indian, so my parents are from India,
Right.
and, Carmi is, Filipino,
Mhm.
so
Right. And then
yeah.
I'm like the typical
Sc
white woman, but
Yeah,
I'm an English woman from a like a pretty repressed emotional
right.
Yeah.
emotional person. And so I love that. I know you said a two-part
Yeah,
question. Let's start on this because I love
yeah.
this one. And there have been papers written about the cultural
Mhm.
perspective of menopause and how it differs. And we only talk about menopause through a Western white lens,
Yes,
through
yes,
me,
Yes.
yes.
right?
Eurocentric,
And
very
it's
Eurocentric.
it sucks, right?
Yeah,
But it's Eurocentric, but it's now like a North American,
n
but it's definitely a white woman's
right,
conversation, which I hate. But there's an organization that I'm part of called Meno Global, and they're looking
okay,
at everything, and they're actually part of like the family of UN. And so they're looking at the African, the East Asian, the Southeast Asian lens, and it's really
love
good.
it.
When you talk about, say, the Punjabi experience,
Yep,
there's one woman that I've got to know really well, gynecologist from BC, actually, Canadian, and she talks about menopause and treatment options. But then she actually goes back to India to work. You can't get any hormone therapies prescribed
no,
there. You can't have an examination. Nobody's going to take your knickers off and have a look at your dry vagina there. And I
yeah,
don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but I feel like the Filipino population might be more liberal, but you also
yeah.
have a very strict Catholic sort of like heritage as well, which makes women sort of close down a bit. So I'd love to know your
All of that.
perspectives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, I just and I also know, like, statistically speaking, and I don't know the exact numbers, but South Asian women do experience menopause, like, 4 or 5 years earlier than your typical Caucasian white woman, right?
Yeah. So
So
when people say the average age of menopause is 51, that's me, right? That's
yeah.
you, and that's not you. Right? And what's really interesting about that is it who gives a fuck when
Yeah,
menopause happens on an average
Yeah.
because we know that it starts in our late 30s, early 40s. So like
right.
women are going
Yeah.
to start experiencing symptoms of it way earlier than our 50s anyway, but South Asian women will likely have more hot flashes or
Yeah.
flushes, depending on where you are in the world. Like but the vasomotor symptoms, like they will go through it earlier.
Mm.
Culturally, it's not accepted as well. Black women will have one of the worst experiences, and then if you're in somewhere like North America, you're not getting healthcare because of the
Ugh.
racialization of healthcare. The Asian experience tends to be a little bit more um, culturally accepted. Places like China and Japan and Thailand have reported, to call it things like the golden age, the second spring, where women
Mhm.
are classed as revered, even in the indigenous populations of Canada. I do a lot of work with and they love the menopausal woman. They love it. They think we're
Yeah.
sages. And so
Super wise and yeah.
very much so. So even though they actually may have symptoms, it tends to be that their symptoms aren't as severe, probably because there's a bit more of an open conversation. So you're not suffering in silence. You can openly say, "I feel like crap today," and you're all going to help me, and
Mm,
and
Mhm.
and nobody looks down on you, and there's no shame or stigma. And so it
right.
really
Yeah.
matters that we have a better conversation
Yes.
about
Yeah.
menopause.
I know that for me, like, I can't speak for the Philippines in, in a broad spectrum. I just know that in my experience in my own home, like I grew up not even knowing what perimenopause and menopause was. It
Yep.
wasn't something spoken about. It was like almost like if my mom was suffering, I don't know. She must have been suffering in silence because she never showed it. Same with my aunts. The only thing that I think that I can recall ever them speaking or touching on is about hot flashes and then just them kind of dumbing it down and
Somebody said,
normalizing it.
"Oh, I'm a little bit hot." That
That's
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
then to go even further as far as Philippines as a country, I think that it's not even something that's really openly communicated or spoken about because of the financial economics, the socioeconomic
Yeah.
status there.
There's a lot
People
of
don't it's not normal for healthcare. It's not normal for insurance. A lot of times they have to pay out of pocket. I mean, we had to beg one of my aunts to go get a mammogram because my mom is a breast cancer survivor
oh my
and
god.
she carries something called PALP2, which I also have, which is partner to BRCA. And so
Right.
we had to beg them to go get it. And they were like, well, it's expensive. Okay, well, we'll
Yeah.
pay for it. So
Yeah.
it's a whole lot of
It's
things,
a
which is why
whole
I
lot of
don't think
things.
it's yeah,
No.
I don't
Right?
think
I
it's very common to even talk about it or even address it.
I love that. There is a paper that
Mhm.
I will share, and you can read afterwards and share with your
Yeah.
viewers,
Yes.
by Martha Hickey, who is one of the leading researchers of menopause in Australia. And she really wanted to look at this. And when she did it, when she wrote this paper, the sort of zealots who are like pushing, and we're going to talk about hormone therapy, like pushing
Okay.
hormone therapy as the absolute panacea solution,
Like the standard.
well, it sort of should be a part of the conversation, but it's the way
Mm.
there's extremes to everything, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they were like, you you can't dumb menopause down into like a cultural experience. This is ruining women's lives, and it can be both. It has to be both. It's everything. Everything's
Two truths can
yeah.
be yeah.
And
Yeah, exist.
there's this whole bit in the middle that we live in. As coaches, we live in that because we see the extremes of the fitness world. I call it like wellness wankery because it drives me crazy because you've got the people like you and I, and we're all going to these summits where we're trying to learn and try to be full, well-rounded people that sees our clients for the individual they are, and we, that's our mission in life. And then you've got like the people that are like, take my supplements, I can cure you, your cortisol's a mess, and blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side of it, you're like, if you're not like lifting like heavy shit all the time, then what's the point type thing? And I'm just
Yes.
like, oh
Yes.
my
Yes.
God, both of you, all of these extremes are causing women to stop doing anything.
Yeah.
Anything, yes.
And
Paralysis
Yes.
and was it analysis paralysis?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's exactly that. And so so I think for me, the cultural side of it is very skewed towards that Western lens. I do hate it. I do find it ironic that I am that person and I am trying to change that conversation. But there are organizations that are looking at that. But the dominating voices with the millions of followers on social media aren't
Yeah.
that. They're just
Well,
not that.
yeah. They're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, and I love that because like I will admit I do come from a biased lens because through when I did start learning about this, I always question myself. I'm like, why is this just a North American thing? Why is it in every other country around around the world that we like HRT and hormone therapy wasn't even it's not a thing. Yes, we discussed all these different factors, but all of these women have gone through it and come out on the other end. My grandma lived till 90, she was fine. What took her out was her lung capacity, right? Like, I've just seen it, and
But
so
also, she was 90.
and also
Yeah.
she was 90, and even then her like she no dementia, no nothing, she was super sharp. But so it makes me want to question like, and this is what we can transition to, is this something that we need necessarily, right? Like it's being and we see it in the space so much, like you mentioned, now it's just being pushed. It's good because we're getting educated and it's knowledge, but it's also a lot.
So it's like we just said, two
Yep.
truths can be
Yep.
at the same time, and the answer definitely lies somewhere in the middle. And so,
Yep.
as a little bit of background for anyone that
Yep.
is like unaware, in 2002 there was an initiative called the Women's Health Initiative. It was one of the largest studies ever done on menopause hormone therapy, and it was halted immediately because the
Right.
headlines jumped out and said, it was called HRT at the time, hormone replacement therapy, causes breast cancer. So doctors
Yeah.
stopped prescribing it. And at the time, there was a very large uptake of women taking it. And it was typically because in the 60s, hormone therapy was marketed to women as a way to stay forever youthful and to please your husband,
Oh,
right?
oh
It was
wow.
like an
Oh,
elixir of
wow.
youth. And so it was really quite the history of all of this is really quite gross. The stigma around talking about menopause is also part of that history, which is what we just touched on a little bit. We don't want to like talk about it because it's sort of shameful. That still exists a little bit. But the hormone therapy thing sort of stopped in its tracks in 2002. Women just stopped taking it and were like, oh
Mm.
my, and starting to feel unwell again, those that were on it, right? Doctors didn't want to get sued, blah, blah, blah. But the study results were flawed. The study wasn't flawed, but the results were flawed because the women that were deemed to have a higher risk of breast cancer were already higher risk of having breast cancer, as in they were in their
Yeah.
60s. When you're a woman and you get older, that increases your risk of breast cancer. That's the highest risk. They also had comorbidities, right? They were also women that had like
Right.
underlying diabetes or they're overweight, other things, right? So they weren't women who were in perimenopause in their 40s actively taking a hormone therapy. So
Mm.
you couldn't, there was no real good valid data, but it took 20 years for people pushing back on that narrative to change how we talk about hormone therapy. And some doctors are still in the mindset of we can't give hormone therapy to women because it causes cancer. And
Mm.
that's not true. Right. So that's the first thing to say. Also, the
Thank you. Mm.
preparations have changed. That used to be an oral medication, and now almost all preparations, like most of them, are transdermal, meaning it goes through the skin. It
Right.
bypasses the liver and it goes straight into the system, and it's considered to be a little bit safer.
Okay.
So here's the thing though, uptake of hormone therapy is very low across the world. Even though we keep running out, it's not a high number. It's like under 10%. I don't know the exact numbers. Some people say 4, some people say 8%, but there's not a lot of women take it. The women that do take it tend to be privileged,
Mm.
middle
Uh-huh.
income,
Yeah.
white, right? Like if you're a woman of color, low income, you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So like that privilege exists. The voice of privilege lives in the
Ah.
world. I'm sorry, right? But it does.
Mhm.
So, but what did the Menopause Society say about hormone therapy? Well, it's really, really clear. They have data, right? They have data and they base their guidelines on the data that we have. Yes, there's missing parts of data. We know women's health hasn't been researched as much as it can be, and people like Melinda Gates are changing all of that, right? Which is
Mm.
great. We're moving in the right direction. But in the absence of data, you don't stick nice to haves in there. And that's what's happening
Mm.
on social media. What we know to be true and what we would like to be true are two different things. And I think that that's the first lens you should look at things through skeptically. What the Menopause Society say when they have researched every single piece of data that exists, and they do this, they don't just decide, oh, we'll say it does this and we'll say it does that. They actually look at everything we have. Is menopause hormone therapy is considered first line safe treatment for vasomotor symptoms. Vasomotor symptoms mean hot flashes, night
Uh-huh.
sweats, cold sweats. For insomnia, if it's as a result of hot flashes, night sweats, right?
Okay.
Also for the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, which is everything, let's not beat about the bush, below the belt, right? It's
Mhm.
all of those things, right? It
Yeah.
can be very helpful for those because those symptoms can be progressive and get worse as you get older. And it can also be used to prevent bone loss for someone who is a high risk person. Not everyone is high risk, but your risk of bone loss and osteoporosis increases after menopause. So
Mm.
that's the things that it's definitely indicated for. It's not indicated for things like mood or brain fog or joint pain or any of those things, but some women do find that it helps with those things. So there are what um, the Menopause Society is called amber light indications. And it
Okay.
basically is if you're a candidate and there's no contraindications, you could try it. And if it works for you, you might have some other benefits. And so that
Mm.
is what should happen when a woman goes to her doctor. There's doctors don't get trained in menopause. gynecologists, only 10% of those get trained in the USA. Like there is a lack of
Wow.
education out there. But for the doctors that do understand menopause, and it can be your GP as well, a GP
Yeah.
or primary care provider could do this. They should offer you menopause therapy. If you're a candidate, you should have the conversation. Menopause is a diagnosis of exclusion. So once they've ruled out anything else, that should be part of the conversation. But there's a caveat, right?
Mm,
It's not to be prescribed for disease prevention because we do not
yes.
have the data. We do not have long term data. And as you get older, your risks increase of certain things. So estrogen isn't always the good guy as you get
Mm,
older, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
Um, Secondly, there are definite contraindications, right? There are some people that will never be able to have hormone therapy. And it's really important that you have those conversations with your doctor. And if you're someone who has had breast cancer, that potentially is you, although there are some breast cancers that it isn't a high risk for. It's so very individual and nuanced and sometimes complex. You have to find the right provider to help you.
Yeah.
And then there are some people, and this is me answering that
Mhm.
question 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I tried hormone therapy and I had such a terrible experience on it that I couldn't use it. I have extreme hormone sensitivity. It's not uncommon. There are women out there that it's like any pharmaceutical medication. There is side effects. Some women respond differently to different things. A hormone sensitivity is one of those things. It made
Mm,
me so unwell. It made my symptoms worse. It made me sometimes suicidal, like
Oh,
serious side effects. And so therefore I didn't take it. And I'm now 8 years post-menopause. Almost, I don't have any symptoms now, which often is the case statistically for a lot of women. They continue to have symptoms, and they're not a candidate for hormone therapy. Throughout
mm.
perimenopause and menopause, there are so many non-hormonal options now that
Yeah.
you don't need to suffer. And so the answer is like, it depends. It
yeah.
depends on
Yeah.
you, your background, your reaction to the medication. But when there's people out there going, menopause is going to stop you having cardiovascular disease, menopause is going to stop you having Alzheimer's, menopause is going to stop diabetes.
Mm,
There's no data to support that. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're on hormone therapy thinking it's going to stop you having a heart attack, the number one killer of women, and you're outside smoking a cigarette, drinking wine, by the wheelie bin or wherever you do it,
yes.
then that's not going to help you, right?
Yeah.
So the
Right,
lifestyle
right.
side of things is really, really important as we get older. And like that's
And
where people like you and I us all come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and two things here. One, I want to ask you for yourself again, two-part question. But for yourself, was it the lifestyle changes for you that helped you move through menopause? And just going back, being Canadian, we have access to the care. And I know I've been reading a lot of your posts about like menopause and healthcare in Canada and how it's being
Yes.
outsourced and how that might be, cause problems and issues down the road. Um, I was fortunate that my GP was well versed, and I've never had an issue with referrals. It's just, hey, I'm having this issue. I would really like to look at it. Sure, let's go. I saw the gynecologist. After having a conversation where she took out the time to sit down with me and talk to me about my life, it was like, hey, Dal, let's just take a step back. I'm not going to prescribe anything. I'm not just going to come out and say, here's some progesterone or estrogen, and let's see what happens. Let's look at your lifestyle. Let's work on that. Give it a few months and let's see where your mindset is at and where you're at. And then we'll reassess, which I thought was amazing. Like I love that advice. And so, I'm working on those things. And so back to you, um, how much does lifestyle play a role? And you just mentioned the smoking, the drinking and all of that, but how did you work through your symptoms?
And I like that. I like that you had a collaborative experience with your doctor that many people don't have. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
the outcome was. You were happy. You had that conversation. You were heard and you were seen. And it's
Yeah.
when you're not getting that that it's really frustrating in any health issue, right? You were very lucky in that respect. So for me, my main symptoms were I had three really big ones. migraine with aura. That was me falling over. That was me
Oh,
having
okay.
vertigo. And I would have them so chronically. I would have 5 days a month where I didn't have them. So I needed something to
Oh.
help me with my migraine. So I took a migraine medication. I also was struggling with depression. Depression is a known
Mm.
symptom of menopause. The migraine medication I had sort of was a dual purpose thing, and it helped with my depression as well as therapy. My depression was really interesting because I'd never struggled with it in my life, and it got hit with it in perimenopause. And there's a lot of information out there now that's suggesting that childhood traumas can come up and show
Mhm.
up in perimenopause. And I went to therapy, and my depression is sort of under control now, right? So
Wow.
that's a lifestyle impact as well. And then the other
Mhm.
thing was I started struggling with incontinence, which was so strange for me because I had two 9.5 babies that fired out of
Yeah.
me, and I popped back
Wow.
Wow.
into
Nine and a
place, and
half.
then I know. I have 6'4" boys now, yeah. But then I would 10 years later, I went for a run and was peeing my pants and couldn't work out
Yeah.
what it was. Well, the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, like it impacts the muscle integrity, even the soft muscle, like the smooth muscle, sorry, of the bladder. So I started taking a vaginal estrogen, which
Mhm.
most men, even those who are contraindicated, will do well on. And so they were
Mm.
the things I did. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of a little bit of like a lifesaver.
Oh.
And so they were the two the vaginal estrogen I'm still on. I am now on a prophylactic migraine medication. I take it once a month, an injection, and I don't get migraines anymore, and I don't need to be on an antidepressant anymore. So that was my treatment. But alongside of that, like my symptoms were so bad I couldn't exercise. I was eating
Mm.
terribly. I was eating my feelings, all of the things, right? And I had to have a really hard conversation with myself, like we would with our clients, going, I know you're saying you're not doing anything different, but
Yeah.
it was really clear to me that I was doing a lot differently. And so I just very gradually started like really focusing on the lifestyle aspects. And the one thing I would say to this is you can be the fittest, healthiest person in the world and have the worst symptoms, and you can be the unhealthiest person in the world and have no symptoms. It just is
Yeah.
the luck of the
It
draw, genetics,
depends.
etc. It depends. You can't green smoothie your way out of menopause, right? It's going to happen, and it's going to show up depending on you as an individual. But if you're not doing the lifestyle stuff to support your health, even if it feels like it's not helping you in the moment, you're missing a great opportunity for future health as well, right? And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
the thing that I would and there are some studies to show that, you know, it can lessen the burden, the symptoms a little bit. Like, you know, and it makes sense if you think about stress management, right? When you're higher
Mhm.
stressed, symptoms are going to feel worse. If you're extra stressed, you're going to feel depression's going to be worse, sleep's going to be, everything's going to be worse. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for that, whether it's going out for a walk or lifting
Mhm.
weights, whatever. And so to me, that it's not an either or. It's like if you have to adjust your lifestyle choices to make it fit your life right where you are right now, do that. The baby steps, the small stuff we do, the way we consistently show up is really, really important to us rather than the big gestures, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
marathon? No, you're not. You're not. Let's pull it back. Yeah.
So I wanted
Yeah.
to circle back to something that you had touched on about the contraindications. I know you said women with breast cancer, it's kind of a contraindication for hormone therapy. What about people like myself who have PALP2 positive or BRCA? Are those also candidates that are contraindicated for hormone therapy?
So I obviously would never give medical
Yeah.
advice, and I can't
Mhm.
give it now, but what the menopause guidelines say specifically is that the choice for you to take hormone therapy after breast cancer, if you're high risk of breast cancer, should be between yourself and your
Mhm.
primary care provider. And so
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
That's fair.
I wouldn't answer that question, but the BRCA gene isn't estrogen sort of dominant. It isn't
Mhm.
fed by estrogen. And so there's some sort of like conversations happening out there about like whether it's appropriate or not to have hormone therapy. There are some really great resources out there that I can share with you to share with your audience
Yes.
Yeah, I would
of
love that.
clinicians that are having valid conversations that stay within the realms of what we know right now. There's books out there that I wouldn't recommend that talk about like estrogen being this, anyone can take it, everybody should be on it. And it's really unfair to women who maybe have had breast cancer and can't take it and feel
Hmm.
like they're missing out. The body can adjust and thrive without taking hormone therapy. It can, right? The body is a wonderful thing, and like your grandma, she lived till 90.
Yeah.
If you don't take hormone therapy, it doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's. If you don't take hormone therapy, it doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. If you don't take hormone therapy, it doesn't mean your bones are going to snap into. And the way that
Mhm.
it's positioned at the
Thank you.
moment is
Yeah.
making people think that that's the case, and it's just not true, and it drives me crazy. It's
Y-
unfair to women. There was one, menopause doctor, influencer, a medfluencer, whatever you wanna call it,
Influencer. Yeah.
who turned around recently and said, for clout, she did this to get a reaction, "In menopause, the brain starts to eat itself."
Yes, I know which one you're
What?
talking about. I saw that too. I was like, that, and I was
Thank
following
God I
that
didn't see that.
person and I saw that and I was like, seriously? Like, this is the level that we've gotten to, that you're gonna just put any of your morals, ethics aside just for, again, like you said, clout, and then reference this without the context and clickbait. And now women that are looking at this are just thinking, oh, I'm doomed. Because
So
the
what
first
so
thing
we
that went
we
through my head was that.
Yeah. Well, opening the path for fear, and fear sells. Another
Yeah.
Yeah.
one I heard last week was menopause is the same as a medical castration. And it's not.
What?
And to position it like that is unfair. You know, for some women, if you have your ovaries removed as part of like a hysterectomy, or you've had breast cancer or other cancers and the chemotherapy stops you in your track, menopause happens like that. And it's no fun,
Yes.
and there is treatment options available for you, and it needs to be treated like a medical condition, and that's how
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
medical societies. But for the majority of women, it's a natural life transition. It doesn't mean it's hard, like having a baby and dying, like a natural life transitions, and they can fucking suck, right? And so
Hmm.
menopause can be the same thing, but the language we use is really, really important. And I
Yeah.
absolutely push back on that because it's unfair, it's scaring women, and we really need to be um, educating them, creating advocacy, and putting women in a position where they can go and have a valid conversation with their healthcare provider if needed, right?
Yeah. When you think
Yeah.
about it, it's icky because a lot of these people are doing that to create fear, to get money out of their pockets, to line their own pockets. And really, we should be creating a safe space where conversations can be had, where women feel seen, women feel heard, and like not just trying to take advantage of them. Cause that's what a lot of what's happening now on social media and even everywhere else, where it's just like now women, it's like women on women hate. Like we're trying to take advantage of other women for our own benefit. And it's really sad.
There's no empowerment. Like,
And
No.
that's not
and
empowering us.
it's not empowering. And Kami, I don't know if you've seen this too, but when somebody like me or other people out there will push back on that narrative, why you hating on other women? I absolutely hate that line when people will accuse somebody who's actually presenting the science and what we know
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
as hating on other women. It's not. It's women can be grifters too. And so when you've got somebody out there with a huge influence that's basically lying or exaggerating something because they eventually want to sort of like make millions of dollars on supplements to sell you something you don't
Mhm.
need, it's okay for somebody to question that. And it's not women hating on women. That woman that took advantage of you in the first place is the one you should be hating on, not the one
Yeah.
who's questioning the logic or
Yeah.
the science behind
Well,
it.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I've
I get pushback all the time, when I question certain things like that, and I'm ultimately the gist at the end
yeah.
of the conversation is I'm a magic unicorn. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. You
How
I'm the
you
what is it? I'm
the
the to
anomaly, the
the yeah
person that, yeah, yeah.
the
You
anomaly to the rule.
yeah.
and how dare you question a medical doctor?
Yeah.
When you use the fallacy of appeal to authority, you've lost me already. Like,
Mm,
you can't question me. I'm a doctor. Yeah, we fucking can
we
question you, and
can.
we should. In
You don't know
fact,
everything. You don't know
but also, in
everything.
fact, if you put yourself on a public platform and you're a doctor, you should be under more scrutiny than anyone else because you have an ethical obligation.
Yeah, of the do no
Right.
harm. Like
Do
that's
no
the,
harm.
one of the oaths that you took. And you're over
Yeah.
here spewing just nonsense and trash to get people to buy your product. And
But
yeah.
I wish though, I wish like, I mean, there's a certain amount of like responsibility and accountability on us. It's two part too, right? Like it's always, there's so much going on because we don't know what we don't know. And then when we're consuming this information, our algorithm is dictated by what we click on, and what we click on
Mhm.
isn't, we don't know if it's necessarily correct. And then you just go
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole. And so there's that part of it. And then just going back to like supplements, what you were talking about, you talk about the purple tax. So when it comes to supplements, could you maybe just talk to us a little bit about that and our audience? Like,
Yeah.
really, this is what is being sold. Buy my supplement. Listen to me. So here's my reel. Here's the clickbait. Here I'm gonna,
Mhm.
reel you in, and now, come to my website and
Yeah.
buy this
Primal Queen
supplement,
is
and
going to save
it'll
you.
solve
It's
your
going to solve
problems.
all your problems.
I can balance
That's
your
the one that
hormones.
I see is
Yeah.
Primal Queen. I don't know if you've seen that, Amanda,
Oh,
but
there's
yes.
plenty.
Oh, yeah, they're all out
There's
there. Yeah,
plenty.
I've seen that, and it's the same old playbook that the wellness wankers all use, right? Like it's not
Yep.
like, and when you see it once, you see it so clearly, right? And it's like, oh, but you don't have to buy from me, but, and it's like, no, stop it. We can see through you. It's like we're not stupid, and I'm hoping that there's like a bit of a pushback on this over time. But there's a couple of things worth knowing. So first of all, like there is no such thing as, well, the menopause industry is worth billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars. And I sometimes think people don't understand the enormity of like a million to a billion, right?
Hmm.
It's so $1 billion, and the supplement side of that is the majority of like where the money's coming from, right? And so it's within
Ouch.
our nature to say, as human beings, to say, I don't want to be taking loads of drugs. I'd rather take something that, is gonna a bit more natural or whatever. And then when your favorite influencer or doctor is saying, but I have my own line of supplements, why don't you buy from me? I've sourced the best ingredients, I've done the research, I've done all the hard work for you. When in reality, what they've done is they've gone to the same distributor, they've white labeled something, which literally means they buy their 30 cents a container,
Form.
stuck their own name on it, and has sold it for 20, 30, 40 times the price. Dr. Jen Gunter did a really good take on this. One of the influencers out there, sells turmeric for anti-inflammation in menopause specifically, right? And so
God.
Jen was like, I'm going to see how much money I can make if I was to do this myself. And the return on investment for these supplements is crazy. And anyone can find something to back what they're selling. Here's the receipts. That's what they do. There's always a study behind them. Here's the receipts that say turmeric's going to help you with inflammation and menopause. And the Joe public isn't going to go looking at the research and going, yeah, but that's not actually what it says, or this was done on rats, or this was
Yeah.
done on cells in a lab. They don't care. These people will do whatever it takes. And the worst part of it is there's something called proprietary blended supplements, and these
Yeah.
are menopause blends. So it's like a bit of this, a bit of that, and
Sprinkle that.
a bit of sawdust, a bit of mouse poo. Like you don't know
Yeah.
what's in them. Like the thing is, you literally don't know what's in
You
them. And
don't.
so when they have done these samples and tested them, even the main ingredient might be there in just a finite amount. So you
Right.
actually don't know what you're taking. And none of this is benign. If you take too many supplements, it can have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Liver
Right.
health as well is a real important conversation to have here. So if you were ever asking me what supplements a person should take, I would very simply say avoid menopause proprietary blends, right? I would
Mhm.
also say don't buy off your medical influencer online who is making millions of dollars, and is now a brand, not a doctor, right? So look at that.
Right.
And then if you do need to take supplements, make sure you actually need them. Have you had blood work done? Do you need to
Yeah.
take some? Are you low in calcium? Maybe you should take some if you're a higher risk going through menopause, but you should also be strength training, and you should also be, like walking more. And I just think just find out what you actually need, because a lot of the time you might be creating expensive pee, but some of the times you might be actually harming your body, right?
Right? Yeah. Mouse poo. I'm sorry. That
Okay,
was
so
hilarious.
let me circle back to something that
I
you
have a way with
said.
words. I know, I
I
know.
love it. I
No, I
love
love
it.
it. I love it. You're so witty and so punny. I love it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm going to take some of your taglines and use them.
Yeah.
Oh,
And be
my gift to you, yeah.
so I want to circle back to something that you talked about just right now as far as blood work goes, because I know I'm here in Southern California. A popular private insurance company that I also work for is Kaiser, and they run a very the most basic of basic blood panels.
Yes.
So let's just say you get your avatar, and it's a woman who is living a balanced lifestyle,
Yeah.
doing all the things. They've mastered the basics. They're still struggling. What is a normal baseline like blood panel that they should go ask for? Because I know that that Kaiser, if I go in, I have a wonderful OB, so
Yeah.
he's an advocate for me, so I don't experience that issue. But what can somebody, the general layperson, that avatar that's mastered the basics, can go in and ask their primary GP or their OB, like, "Hey, I still don't feel well. I do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Can we run these blood panels?"
So I don't know
Th-
what they're called across the different country, and we do have different names for them. But what
okay.
I would sort of say to you, if you're a perimenopausal woman, things are changing, and you want to know what's going on. Firstly, the menopause societies do not recommend blood panels for to diagnose perimenopause or
No,
menopause,
okay.
right? And the main reason is because you should be able to be treated based on your symptoms alone. Remember, I said it's a diagnosis of exclusion. Check
Yeah.
everything else
Hmm.
out. If you're presenting with 3 or 4 symptoms, then you are a menopausal woman, so therefore we can treat you. And the reason that hormone levels are not appropriate is because they're dynamic. So if just say
Yeah.
we took yours, Carmi, on a Monday morning, and it said that your estrogen levels were in the normal range, but then we took it again the following day, they might be really low or really
Yeah.
high. And it sort of doesn't tell the doctor a whole lot. Some doctors might want to do it just as a baseline, but really it should be a baseline of everything. But the
Hmm.
specific sex hormones in perimenopause, it really isn't necessary. There's one hormone, the FSH, the follicular stimulating hormone. Literally, it's the brain signal going to the ovaries, going crank out a few more
Hmm.
eggs from the
Eggs.
ovary. And
Yeah.
when your eggs are sort of diminishing, that number goes higher and higher. And when it's at a particular level, that tells you you're menopausal, right? So that can be helpful. But otherwise, you need to know your numbers as a woman going through perimenopause. And that's like you need to get your cholesterol checked. You need to get your fat lipids checked. You need to get what's your B12, what's your ferritin, what's your vitamin D, which is usually an extra cost, right? So
Mhm.
it's usually like the just the baseline that's needed. And I really recommend women do that, because when you know your numbers, and especially because, we see cholesterol levels increase after menopause, right? So if you know
Mhm.
you're like at higher risk, then maybe that can help you maybe do some dietary changes, or maybe try some, introduce an exercise if you're not exercising. And it might be that you may need to go on statins or something. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I love that
um,
you touched on that.
essentially, that's it. To me, it's like know your numbers for your health. But for perimenopause, it can be very frustrating actually getting blood work and not empowering, because if you continually go and the doctors are like, yeah, everything's normal, you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the blood work can actually work against you. And then for some reason, if it's like super high or super low, and they're giving you medication based on that, it might not be the appropriate dose.
Yeah.
The appropriate dose for your medication, if you take menopause hormone therapy, is the one that makes you feel good. And
Yeah.
usually takes
Hmm.
3 or 4 weeks to test that. And that's how you work in collaboration with your doctor.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that because I actually had my coach tell me, or tell us collectively as a whole, that because there is a lot of noise out there that if you're in perimenopause, go get your blood work taken, go see, your levels, blah, 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 which, okay, yes. But he also said, but if you're in perimenopause, everything is swinging in so many different directions that if you don't have a very good provider working alongside you that is constantly testing and constantly adjusting doses, and therefore a lot of money if you're paying out of
Yes.
pocket, like, don't do it. Like, master the basics, write it out, see how far you can take those basics and go from there.
Yeah, and women should learn to track their symptoms so that when they go to
Mm.
their doctor, they don't go in and go, "Oh, I'm not feeling," because I've done it. We all do it. I don't feel great. Yeah, I think I've had a bit of a headache, blah, blah, blah. You need to be like tracking it. Like, I've had 43 hot flashes in a week. I've had a
Mm.
migraine for 7 days solid. I have had 5 UTIs. Whatever it is, go in specifically with data because that
Yeah.
changes the conversation
Yeah.
rather than going and going, "I don't feel well. Can you test my blood?" It's no harm. I'm like, get it done if you want to, if it makes you feel better. I am a bit of a like a data whore. I love having my language is
Yeah,
shocking, by
data
the way.
whore. I
I'm
love
so
it.
sorry. I should have
No, no,
asked.
No,
don't be.
please don't apologize. Please do not apologize. We're
We're
good.
bad.
But I love
We're too.
numbers.
We're like sailors here sometimes.
Yeah, I think
We're
it's
too. Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
go
bit of
ahead.
a condition with wanting to have data all the time, right? But I like it. I love comparing my cholesterol level to like a year ago, going, "Ooh, look at me. I'm so proud of myself," you know.
Yes, yes.
Like,
But I mean, we're coming up to an hour, and I know we want to respect your time. But could we touch on like strength training? Obviously, the benefits we know, but exercise, strength training, just in perimenopause and menopause, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You
And
can
and I think
take
it's a
that
really
wherever you
good
want.
question because
Yeah.
I know that my coaching was like 30 odd years ago in the UK. And you know, you learn the basics of strength training, what it does to the muscle, what hypertrophy is, and blah, blah, blah. We know this like the science behind that. And then along the way, we might do subspecialties, right? Like working with the pre-postpartum crowd or working with seniors or the teenagers. And I worked with pro athletes as well. So like we've all got different experiences. And I never had like the menopause one. I was like, so when it happened to me, I was like, I want there to be something different for menopause. There has to be. Our body's going through this seismic change. There's no way what we do every day of the week is the same. But guess what?
Mm.
There's no data to show that we need to do anything different in menopause. But let me caveat that before everyone starts attacking me.
Yeah.
And it's
We're just
and
gonna
it's
clip
this.
it. We're gonna clip it.
No, 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 don't clip me here,
I
don't clip me here. And
know.
so, bye, Amanda. No,
Nice knowing you.
essentially, it's this, right? We know that you still build and maintain muscle the same way in menopause. You still respond the same to cardiovascular work. You still respond the same to active rest and recovery. You still respond to a good, healthy, nutritious diet to support your exercise. So we know that those haven't changed, right? But what we do know is that when a woman is going through menopause, there's all of these confounding factors that happen that just make all of those basics incredibly hard. And so it might be that they're a runner and they go out for a 10K run. And then what's happening is 3 or 4 days afterwards, they're still recovering. They're still
Mm.
exhausted. Well, that's not a surprise in menopause because what we do know is that our energy levels change. Energy happens in the brain. Estrogen impacts that. Maybe we're not eating as well and we don't have as much glucose flying around our body. And so actually a 10K run might not feel like the most appropriate thing to do. And so and it's the same for strength training. Maybe they do a strength training session and then their joints are hurting afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
that can happen and often does happen. And so it's not that um, anything different needs to be done from the basics. But what we do need to do is look at the woman in menopause and go, listen, things might feel different and you may need to adjust what you're doing. And so it might be that, you know, you need to now start programming 3 active rest days, not 2. You might need an extra rest day, right?
Mm.
You might need to really hone in on your nutrition and support yourself in recovery. Are you eating enough? Are you eating enough protein and fiber in your diet? Like all of those things. But the message that we're hearing out there is HIIT training sucks for menopausal women, but zone
Yes.
2 is shit too. That women can only lift heavy weights and they must do 11 push-ups and lifting
Yeah.
light weights is garbage. And none
Yeah.
of those things are accurate, right? And so
Yeah.
auto-regulation, which is something that we work with as coaches, is that check-in where you say to yourself, what am I feeling like today? What's my energy like?
Yeah.
All right, it's 10 out of 10. I feel good. I'm going to go and I'm going to do my workout and I'm going to do my best, right? And I
Right.
know tomorrow I need to have a really good recovery day. I'm going to plan to do an hour walk around the park with my friends or whatever, right? Or a mobility session or a yoga session or something. But saying to women, don't do HIIT training because it's going to spike your cortisol is just literally not understanding human physiology,
Yeah.
knowing that when we exercise, it helps improve our cortisol response. Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
ultimately helps chronic cortisol. And so I would just say to women that if you're really struggling through menopause, find a kind, empathetic coach that knows how to push you enough, but
Yeah.
understands when to pull you back.
Yeah.
Right. And
That can
actually,
understand the
Yes.
seasons that you're in.
it's a
Yes.
season. Yeah.
Hmm.
But like the only lift heavy shit thing drives me crazy. And it drives me crazy because 85%, probably 90% of women don't strength train.
Yeah.
We are
And
not
they
going to
don't
get,
want to lift heavy like that. I
they
mean,
shouldn't. You're not
Yeah.
going to get an ultimate beginner to do like
yeah.
deadlift like 5 times, like 5 reps of their body
Yeah.
weight. You're just never going to do that. You're going to be
Yeah.
doing hip hinges with just their body,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So, and also, I'd love to see anyone do a lateral range, a lateral raise with like heavy weights. I'm still using my 10-pound weights, and it's
Yes.
years, right?
Yes. They're hard.
Yes.
Yes. And
But
and
also,
I'm
though, too, heavy is a
thank you.
spectrum. Heavy depends. It
It
depends. It
depends
all
on where you're
depends
at.
because your
Yeah.
heavy doll is different than my heavy. And same with Amanda. So it's like, I hate the black and white cut and dry. Like, we have to understand that everything we tell people lives in a gray area. Like,
It
it
depends.
can't
Yeah.
just be here or here.
Perfect. It's exactly that. I feel like I say that all the time. Like it
Yeah.
really depends.
But then they think we're gatekeeping. They think we're gatekeeping because it has to be this or this. It can't be both or it can't be somewhere in between, which is so maddening because, like, I am a walking example that it's not this or this, it's everything.
But
And
there's,
what
yeah.
does it, yeah, sorry, Dal, what does it
Yeah.
do when you give these arbitrary, when you say you have to be able to do 11 push-ups, you have to lift heavy shit, you cannot do hit
I think
training.
it raises, it
The
hinders people because they're
fear
like, I can't do
barrier.
that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So why even try? It's instead
So
of like, if you can just get a couple push-ups in one week, and then maybe if you can get one more the next week and then
yeah.
another one the next week, because hey, that's progression.
Yeah, but people don't, this is the thing though, like this is not the
Exactly.
messaging that we see from a
No.
lot of coaches,
Yeah.
and empathy and
Because it doesn't sell.
doesn't sell, but I don't give a shit.
Neither do
I
I.
just got my content is all about like, hey, I'm going to meet you where you're at. What, like I
Yes.
just had this,
But it should be that. Everybody's messaging should be, let's meet you where you're
but
at.
it's
Let's
not.
tailor it
It's
to
not.
you and your season. Because it doesn't sell. It doesn't
It's
sell.
a
Like, people want,
checklist.
they want, like, I'm paying you, get me the results. Tell me what to do.
This
Exactly.
fires me up, Amanda, because you see the stupid checklist. You see, oh, just do these 5 things: 10,000 steps, 3 to 4 strength workouts, get your sleep, get your water, reduce your stress. And it's like,
Jesus.
fuck off. Like, no, because some people might not even start there. I had this conversation with a client yesterday. I'm like, let's just redefine
Yeah.
what movement means to you. Movement can mean being out in the garden for a couple hours doing,
But
you
that
know,
requires you to get them to turn off their blinders to everybody else and stop comparing. Because that's
no,
probably where a lot of that's coming from is they're
that's
like, but
one
this
part of
person's
it.
doing
Yeah.
this. I should
Yeah.
be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like what I just did is I came in with my drink. I said something and dropped it. Like,
You
and another thing, and
I
another
know.
thing.
It is. It drives us batty. Like it's just, yeah, it's
Because it makes me
really,
sad. It makes me
Yeah,
sad
it
because
makes
I
me
know
sad.
all of this misinformation is keeping them stuck. And like, I literally just want, like, I know what it's like to be on both sides. I'm on the
yeah,
other
both
side.
of
I
them.
want you
Yep.
on the other side with me. So
Yes,
drown out the noise and just do the basics and do them for a really long time and don't stop.
well
Yeah.
said. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Amanda, I have a client I was speaking to yesterday. She's kind of like there, like menopause, perimenopause, but like, in her 50s. She's South Asian and she's just like, Dal, this is so much. Like I'm tired of carrying this extra weight and but like she has back issues right now. She had an injury, but I can't strength train and I can't do this. I go, that's okay. You don't have to do anything. Let's just focus on what you can focus on right now. If nutrition is it, cool. That is it. Why add all this
You know
stuff to
what
your
she
plate?
did? She showed up.
Yeah.
Exactly. I tell my clients that all the time. The fact that you guys show up every week, bi-weekly, you are
Yeah.
doing something. You want this.
Right.
It is
And
not
you
a lack
can't
of
right
discipline or
now, but that
motivation.
doesn't mean you can't later. What can we do
Exactly.
now?
Look at us
Exactly.
being reasonable.
I
There you go.
know. I know. I love it. I love it.
Reasonable doesn't sell. We all know that.
So funny.
Oh, okay. Wow, that was a great conversation. Like
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I learn a lot. We want to learn a lot about this and we have to stay in our lanes, but for us it's always yes, recommending out, but always just encouraging the basics, right? Like the lifestyle
Yeah.
basics. So,
No
Yeah.
yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Within
loved
the
chatting.
parameters of their lives.
Exactly, exactly. I've loved
Yeah.
chatting with you both, though. That was so much fun. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
likewise.
Thank you. Okay,
So
go
where
ahead,
can our
Carmi.
where can I finders? Where can our listeners find you, Amanda? And I'll make sure I link everything in the show notes.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just, you can find me I have a website, amandathebe.com.
Okay.
And my Instagram is amanda.thebe. I'm going to be talking about a new platform I'm going to be
Oh,
releasing this year, which is like a menopause support platform with
Nice.
move
oh,
programs in and education and a community. And I'm very excited about it. It's been a long time coming. And it's like meeting people where they're at and just making them feel like
Yeah.
empowered through this time for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I love that.
for everyone, but especially my Canadian women, please go follow her because
Yeah,
Amanda,
why
because
wouldn't you?
yes, yes, because they're, it's just we don't see a lot of that information. It's a lot from the States, and so that doesn't
Right.
necessarily always apply as far as the way that they do things there. So yes, please do
And one
that.
of the things I'm trying to do, Dal, is that like
Yeah.
we have a socialized healthcare system here that isn't always
Yes.
supporting women, and it's really frustrating. But the answer isn't for women to go to private healthcare. And if you can afford to go to private healthcare, I have no problem against that. That's not what this conversation is about. It's really just saying to women that if you can't afford to pay for care, it doesn't mean you shouldn't get any. And that's what's
Yeah.
happening right now. So the
Right.
Canada Health Act is something that I'm trying to explain to people, along with my colleague who is a family doctor and a menopause specialist. So head to the pinned post on my Instagram and we're going to
Yeah.
try and do some community sort of outreach on this, as in we want to advocate for change. And so I'm really going to try and push that this year if I can.
I
I
love
love
that. I'm
that.
so
That's
looking forward to
amazing.
it.
Now
Okay.
this is
Well,
the empowering stuff,
yes,
guys.
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. All right. Well, with that, if you loved this episode, please share it with whomever you think could benefit. And until next time,
Bye
bye.
bye.